Welcome back to the Talking Ketamine podcast. This is episode 50, The Nanoscopic World.
Can you believe we made it to 50? Today, we are celebrating by zooming in, way in. We're leaving the world of brain regions and circuits and going down to the molecule. Our source today is a massive new book, Nano-Organization of the Synapse, that shows us the actual machinery ketamine is trying to fix.
It really feels like the right way to celebrate 50. We're finally going high definition.
We are.
And, reading this, I realized my entire mental picture of the brain, well, it was basically a cartoon.
I think that's true for most of us. It's the standard definition problem. We talk about neuroplasticity, but what we picture is pretty blurry.
Totally. I always imagine these two blobs, the neurons, and one just sort of sprays this glowing dust at the other one.
The famous chemical soup model.
The classic.
Right. Just a messy cloud of glutamate floating in the gap. It felt so random, like a sprinkler system that just hopes for the best. And for a long time, that was the best model we had. It was like watching a movie on an old VHS tape. You can follow the plot, Neuron A talks to neuron B, but you're missing all the details.
You can't see the actors' faces.
Exactly. And in Biodla, the detail is everything. But this new book, it argues that we've just been looking at it all wrong. It's not a soup.
It's a machine.
It's a machine. That's the revolution. Thanks to these incredible new technologies, things with really intimidating names like Storm.
Storm. I like that. It sounds like it's clearing the fog.
It really is. And there's cryo-electron tomography, too. Basically, these things let us break past the old limits of microscopes. We've stopped seeing a blurry pixel and started seeing, well, a bustling city.
And the main takeaway is that it's all incredibly precise, like Swiss watchmaking.
That's the perfect analogy. So, okay, let's do the Google Earth zoom. We go past the brain matter, down the neuron, right to the very, very tip, the presynaptic terminal.
The edge of the cliff.
Right. And across that tiny gap, you've got the receiving side. Now, the old view was that the little bubbles of neurotransmitter, the vesicles, were just, waiting anywhere.
Like a crowd waiting for a bus.
Exactly. But the new view shows us this thing called the nanocolumn.
And just that word column implies structure, architecture.
It changes everything. It turns out the brain builds these specific launch pads. The source material talks a lot about proteins like RIM and MUNC13.
MUNC13 seems like a real celebrity in this book.
Oh, it's the docking master. It's critical. It grabs that vesicle and holds it right at the edge, primed and ready to go. It's the trigger mechanism.
And here's the magic part, right? These launch pads aren't just placed randomly.
Not at all. They are perfectly aligned with the receptors on the other side, down to the nanometer.
Trans-synaptic alignment, that's the term they use.
It is. So on the receiving side, you have this dense web of protein, PSD95, that holds the AMPA and NMDA receptors in a tight little bunch.
And that bunch is sitting directly across from the MUNC13 launch pad.
Perfectly. So it's not a sprinkler system.
It's a sniper shot.
Precisely. The brain creates a dedicated slot for the signal. When the neuron fires, the glutamate shoots across and hits the target instantly. No waste.
Which makes total sense evolutionarily. If you touch a hot stove, you can't wait for the signal to find a parking spot.
Efficiency is everything. And this structure, this nanocolumn, is what makes the brain high fidelity. But it gets even more complex. The synapse isn't just a simple on-off switch.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting. There isn't just one kind of signal. The book says there are 3 distinct modes happening at the same time.
And understanding these 3 modes is, I think, the key to understanding ketamine. So mode number 1 is the one we just described, synchronous release.
With the fast lane.
The fast lane. An electrical signal arrives, calcium floods in, and boom, the vesicle launches. This uses a sensor called synaptotagmin 1. It's built for speed.
This is for catching a ball or having a conversation like this one.
Exactly. Then you have mode 2, asynchronous release.
The stutter.
That's a good way to put it. The main signal fires, but then there's this little delayed burst for a few milliseconds afterward. It uses a different sensor, synaptotagmin 7.
So it's like the difference between a single drum beat and a short drum roll. It extends the sound.
That's a great analogy. It adds texture to the signal. But the third mode. Now, the third mode is the one we really need to focus on today.
Spontaneous release.
The ghost in the machine.
And for the longest time, science just thought this was
Exactly.
noise. Right.
Yeah.
An error. A vesicle just slips out by accident.
That was the dogma. They called them minis, just background static you ignore to hear the music. But this new research says something completely different.
It's not a bug. It's a feature.
It's a maintenance signal. And it turns out this spontaneous release has its own dedicated machinery, and it targets a very specific set of receptors.
And let me guess, the NMDA receptors.
Bullseye. This is the ketamine key. We all know ketamine blocks NMDA receptors, but it's always been a bit of a paradox, right?
Yeah, NMDA receptors are for learning and memory. Why would blocking them help with depression? It feels like you should be turning the lights up, not down.
It seems totally counterintuitive, unless you're not blocking the main signal. What if you're blocking that background hum to force a reset?
Yeah.
The theory laid out here is that in depression or chronic stress, these beautiful nanocolumns we talked about, they get messy.
The alignment starts to break down.
The whole architecture degrades, the launch pads drift, the receivers float away, the geometry fails, so the timing fails. That crisp 4K picture turns back into fuzzy standard definition.
And that background hum, the spontaneous release,
Yeah,
it's reinforcing this bad state.
it could be. It's like a maintenance signal that's stuck on a bad setting, constantly telling the synapse, stay just like this, stay broken. It's a feedback loop.
So in comes ketamine.
In comes ketamine, and it sits right on those NMDA receptors that are listening to that spontaneous hum.
It cuts the signal. It silences the hum.
And the brain, sensing this sudden quiet, thinks the connection is failing. It panics, but in a good way.
It thinks, oh no, I need to fix this. Turn up the volume.
It triggers homeostatic plasticity, a rapid reboot. The neuron overcompensates by deciding to rebuild the connection, but stronger.
And now, with these new microscopes, we can actually see that rebuilding happen. It's not a metaphor.
We can see the repair crew. The neuron starts making more scaffolding proteins. It pulls the nanocolumns back into perfect alignment.
And it adds more AMPA receptors, right?
The volume knobs, exactly. It physically inserts more AMPA receptors into those newly aligned slots, so the connection becomes louder, stronger, and more precise.
So when we say ketamine regrows connections, it's not like a vine on a wall. It's more like a construction crew realigning steel beams and upgrading the wiring.
A hardware upgrade.
Yeah.
And that's why it works in hours, not weeks. It triggers the physical machinery to rebuild the architecture.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But there's one more layer to this that just blew my mind. The whole idea of liquid physics.
Ah, phase separation. Yes. This is where it gets really wild because it seems to contradict everything we just said about rigid structures.
Yeah, we've been using words like scaffolding, beams, anchors, all very solid.
Like concrete. But if your brain was made of concrete, you could never learn anything. You'd be a statue. So the big question has always been, how can the brain be stable enough to hold a memory for 50 years, but flexible enough to change in 5 seconds?
Stability versus plasticity.
And the answer seems to be liquid phase separation. Think of a lava lamp or oil droplets in salad dressing.
Okay, yeah. They stick together, but they're still liquid. They can merge and split.
That's exactly what these protein clusters are. The PSD95, the MUNC13, they form what are called condensates. They're like little droplets of machinery floating in the cell's fluid.
Wait, so the launch pad isn't a solid platform, it's a floating drop of oil.
A highly organized drop of oil, and this allows the synapse to dance. The receptors aren't locked in place. They can actually wiggle and flow inside that droplet.
So that's the plasticity. If you need to strengthen a connection, you just make the droplet bigger and catch more receptors.
You got it. It's dynamic stability. And the source has this incredible detail about how the vesicles behave. A new mechanism they call kiss-shrink-run.
Kiss-shrink-run.
Yeah.
Sounds like a rom-com plot.
It's actually a super efficient recycling plan. The old view is that the vesicle would just flatten completely into the membrane, a total collapse.
But if the launch pad is this delicate liquid droplet, that would just destroy it every time.
It would smear the oil everywhere. You'd have to rebuild the whole thing after every single signal. It would be impossible. They kiss the membrane, they open a tiny pore just long enough to let the glutamate out, then they instantly shrink and run back to get refilled.
So they don't flatten, they just pop open for a second and then pull back.
All in milliseconds. This keeps the nanocolumn's shape intact. It preserves the liquid droplet. It lets the brain fire at incredible speeds without the machinery falling apart.
Wow. And all of this is happening right now in our heads billions of times a second. These little droplets dancing, the vesicles kissing and running.
And this all comes back to mental health. Chronic stress seems to disrupt this dance. The droplets might become too rigid, like a gel, or too dispersed, like a gas.
So the alignment is lost. The machine starts to grind to a halt.
And a treatment like ketamine is ultimately about restoring the rhythm, getting the choreography back on track.
We're so far beyond the old chemical imbalance idea now. It's not about just needing more serotonin in the soup.
That's the VHS view. The 4K view is about structural realignment. It's about tuning the engine. And now, finally, we can actually see the blueprint for that engine. We're moving from alchemy to engineering.
It's amazing to think that the difference between depression and health might come down to a few nanometers of alignment.
That's the reality. The biology is precise, so the treatment needs to be precise. We are finally seeing the engine we've been trying to tune all these years.
And that is a beautiful place to wrap up our 50th episode. Thanks for listening to the Talking Ketamine podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.